Okay, so we're going to talk about some current distance education tools using a lecture capture format. We're actually using a piece of software right now called Camtasia, which CSUN recently acquired a campus license for to help professors do this kind of thing more easily, where you have the slides and the pictures, and students can later, go back and reference it. And if you have some information you want to show in the background, or you can do this by a whiteboard or something, I just have a plain wall behind me. But it's an interesting technology. But the tools that we're going to talk about fall into one of two categories. They're either asynchronous or synchronous. Asynchronous simply means that the information doesn't have to arrive at the same time. It can be delayed, and the people can be online at different times and still be able to see it. Synchronous means that they have to be online at the same time for the information to get from one person to the other. And you'll kind of see more what that means as we talk about the different types of software. So, first tools that we're going to talk about are the asynchronous ones. And the first tool of the asynchronous type is one we're all very familiar with, is email. So using email in education pretty much for the most part replaces that one-on-one communications you might have talking to your professor after class. You can use email instead in a distance learning scenario where you don't have access to the professor. And so it allows us to ask those quick questions, if we have something we want to find out. You can also use email in the group format, of course, if you want to carbon copy everyone. And that's where that reply all bug, comes in, where someone replies all where they shouldn't have. But for the most part, email is used for direct communication between the professor and the student, and it works really well. And again, it's asynchronous because the email, can wait until the person's ready to respond, and take care of whatever it is the issue is. The second asynchronous tool is a message board. We're familiar with this in Moodle, right? We have our message boards. We can all post, and everyone can read everyone else's posts, and everyone's name is associated with what they said. And it's a good method of interaction for students. The only drawback is that you have to remember to go check the message board. You have to post something. You have to kind of think about what you're writing. It's not complicated interaction, but it's definitely one that you have to put some thought in. And a cousin of the message board is a blog. So you can have a blog that allows people to write more. Usually message boards usually have limitations on formatting or size. Blogs, you can set them up and you can have as much space as you want. Other people can come read them, and then they can leave you comments just like on a message board. But if you set up a blog on a non-campus server, like some sort of one of the popular blogging platforms like WordPress, then the student would have access to that blog even after the class ends. They can keep updating it if they want to. It can become a tool that extends on past when the class is over. Another tool is the wiki. Wiki is basically a online repository of information that all the users can edit and modify. Wikipedia is the most famous one, but it's not the only type of wiki. You can set up a wiki for your own class, and you have students edit information and kind of build something over the course of the semester in a collaborative way that the blogs and message boards can't quite replicate. So the wiki is a useful tool, and it's getting more and more popular with classes. We also have podcasts. Podcasts come in audio and video varieties, and really what you can use these for in an educational environment is for the lectures, like we're doing right now. You could take this and then put it into a podcast. But podcasts also are known for their structure. You can put a bunch of podcasts into a feed, and then that feed can be distributed. And every time you put up a new podcast, then people can subscribe to that and be notified. iTunes U has a bunch of podcasts from universities, lectures and things like that. And you can get video or audio versions and review basically any subject you want. And so podcasts are really becoming very influential in this kind of learn anywhere environment. Another asynchronous tool we have is ePortfolio. We're familiar with this from TaskStream, where you can put your work into these portfolios and be able to save them for later and use them across semesters and build up a repository of information about you and what you've done. And it's very useful in terms of evaluating things. It's very popular in high schools right now. They're starting to use those to build up their college applications. So e-portfolios are coming along. They're very interesting. The last asynchronous tool we're going to talk about is the one we're doing right now, lecture capture. And I already mentioned a little bit about this up front. But lecture capture allows you to take these slides and put your own little spin on them. You could put, like, say information in the background. If you want to do some video editing on the back end, you can jump in from the future, edit things, create things. I'm trying to do this all in one take, but you could do multiple takes and put it all together. Depends on how much work you want to do with it. And so here's me, obviously sand cape right now, but there's me on the slide. And so you can do your lecture once and then be able to distribute it to the students anywhere. There's some issues on this in terms of who owns what, and they're still working through that kind of stuff. But we have like the lecture capture in Classroom too, where you can have dedicated systems set up for it. So lecture capture is really becoming an emerging tool in the distance learning environment. So there's some asynchronous tools. Let's talk about some synchronous tools. First one we have is chat, one of the oldest ones. 20 years in the internet, chat's always been around in some way, shape, or form. You had IRC, which is the Internet Relay Chat at the very beginning, and then you had Instant Messenger and things like that. So chat can take a whole bunch of different environments. But again, these are synchronous tools, so the people have to be on at the same time, the professor and the students. And you can have a one-on-one chat, or you can have a group chat, depending on what kind of client you have. And so it's a good way to communicate. But again, everyone has to be on the same time. If they're not on the same time, you have to have some way of recording that chat so that other people can see it. And so that makes things a little trickier. Another synchronous tool is video audio conferencing, or Skype, or Google Hangouts. We did one last week with our guest lecturer, and we've seen there's some difficulties and there's some benefits, but really you can have people come in and get their expertise from really anywhere in the world now using video and audio conferencing, and you can have a discussion, and you're able to tap into a lot more resources than you were able to before. Last synchronous tool we're going to talk about is virtual classrooms, such as Blackboard Collaborate. And they'll usually have a chat feature built in, even some video and audio conferencing things, but they'll also have some sort of work area, like a whiteboard, or some place where people can post things to, or you can even share your desktop if you have programs running. And so they really try and incorporate the classroom into a single software package. And they have various degrees of success, but they're interesting to play with, and they're developing as a technology. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about with tools today. We're going to go back to our regularly scheduled presentation. Enjoy.